if it's measurable, it's improvable. If I expect you to do something, I need to inspect that you're doing that thing. Don't paint seagulls in your prospect's picture. Don't put the problem there. Make them say it. Me saying it as an enablement guy, it's BS. I don't know. One of my mistakes at Grubhub was when I came into it, I was like, well, we're going to do a discovery and it's going to be this, and that. No, we have to tail that back. It doesn't have to be the nasty gram email to all the managers saying, oh, you suck. You guys aren't doing.
Hello everyone, this is Michael Ocean, founder and CEO of SellMeThisPen AI. Today I'm super pumped because I have my great friend Jared Balzer on the show today. And Jared has a wealth of experience in sales, leadership, and enablement. He has worked and built enablement at companies like Grubhub and Inspectorio and many more. So today we're going to talk about a very important topic. And it's important because we've seen some of these, imbalances when it comes to collaborations between frontline managers with enablement teams. It's been in both sides of the table. I think it's going to be a very good conversation. Jared, so good to have you today. How are you doing, sir?
Glad to be here. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Of course. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you actually got into sales?
Yeah, I mean, it started off early. I was in college and there was a little table, at the career day, and they were offering a job at AT&T. So AT&T Ability. So I worked at AT&T retail store, and I quickly became the guy that was training the new people
Nice.
and how to run their sales and how to, of course, build their metrics out. And that's what led me to more of a sales trainer, which then evolved into sales enablement and sales leadership as well down the road.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about the transition from working inside the physical location towards remote work and tech companies. I'm super curious to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, working retail is nothing that I would advocate for someone to do that loves their work-life balance. Being told, you have to work every weekend and every holiday, it's tough. But in the day, it's work and it needs to be done. But being able to move indoors and move to tech, I felt like I was really able to solve more problems and have more impact. I love selling to the people coming in on the weekends from church or wherever they're coming from to sell them their new iPhone. That was fun. I had a lot of fun and joy. Like you make things fun for people. But in tech, we have real impacts. I've had the ability to see people grow their careers, see people grow their business and accomplish their goals. And that's something that always makes you feel good inside.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Look, I wanted to jump right in and ask this question. What's the secret to getting managers to buy into enablement initiatives right from the start?
It has to start early and often. You have to involve them early and often, right from the discovery. When one of my previous experiences, Grubhub, there was a lot going on that needed to be fixed and a lot of friction that really slowed the ability to not just land those companies, but to retain them. And so it started with discovery, meeting with top of the line managers, your leaders, and understanding what are some of the things they're seeing and what they would like to work on. And then moving to frontline management, understanding what they're experiencing from their team members, what's slowing them down, and even meeting with the top sellers. I ran individual contributor meetings. The people that were top sellers, they got their own one-on-ones. But sometimes it came down to a roundtable where we get that real group think going and just helping them know and showing that I'm not just here to imprint what I've learned on the past. I want to learn from you on what's not working and what needs to be done to help everybody else be more successful. And it doesn't stop there from discovery. In that ideation phase, what I like to do, what I have done is I pass along to all the stakeholders within the organization. And so one of the biggest issues that I experienced at Grubhub was that handoff from sales to their implementation team. A lot of friction. A lot of early stage attrition that caused the salespeople to lose their money, point their finger at the onboarding team, which is never a good thing for growth and, of course, just culture in general. And so I created the SOP, the playbook, so to speak. I passed it around to multiple managers, top and bottom line, where we're talking about sales, implementation, and the success team, so they can see where I'm gearing towards and offer their feedback and say, this won't work at all. Oh, we forgot this step. And so that way they feel like not only were they a part of the creation of the discovery, but now the ideation and the actual steps that we're going to take to create the process. And the same thing goes with implementation. We have to be lock and step with them. Invite them to your implementation calls. Don't be the talking head. Bring your subject matter experts. in your discovery phase, you're going to find people, team members that are doing exactly what you need them to do in that SOP, in that playbook. Get them on the call, share why it's been successful for them. Me saying it as an enablement guy, it's BS. I don't know. Who cares? This might be real. It might not. Am I going to waste my time and test it if it's not successful? Probably not, because that involves change, and change is scary. Versus I've got a top performer who I can show their numbers and show the impact of what this new thing that we're doing, whether it's a debrief or just setting expectations properly. Those very simple things that can slow the sale down. And the follow through is just as crucial. I was taught early in my career that training is not an event; it is a process. And so, yes, we have an event where we implement that training and we get the rah rah moment, but we got to have that follow through to make sure that every stakeholder understands their part of the play in order to make it successful.
I love it. To your point, it's not an event. So, okay, I got the buy-in, I multi-threaded, I got the end user, I got the middle manager, I got the approval from executive leadership. The job is not done yet. So I got the approval, I roll out the program. Now let's really sit down and assess everything. So you are kind of like a mini rev up after you've done your selling. You run it and see what's working, what not, and then later you kind of going to do tons of handholding to make sure everybody's like really applying these learnings. What's missing? What we need to do adjustment in terms of like make it stickier for the team. This is interesting, and I think it has something to do with your background being in sales before moving to enablement. And many enablers might hate me for this, but I think that that's a superpower when you have that sales background, because your mindset is it's not about a one sheet program that I can send to everyone and said, hey, I have approval from executive team, this is something that top down everybody needs to do. It's no, let's just really dig in. To your point, let's do the discovery, understand like where the gaps are, and then hopefully we can help you achieve success easier. I had a friend actually on a previous pod. He's been a seasoned CRO for a number of years, and he said sales teams are the hardest to adopt to anything new, any changes. And it's just good and bad. The good part is I want them to be mavericks. I want them just to have a say and go out there and sometimes even act as lone wolves and go get the job done. But at the same time, it's they need more handholding compared to customer success teams or customer even support teams. So based on your experience, when you get into a company with multiple managers, they most probably have their own way of running things. Maybe they follow certain methodology or framework, or not. They find a way that works, but it's just maybe not scalable. How do you get alignment with frontline managers specifically after the discovery phase? How do you make sure that they actually apply what you teach their reps?
Yeah, I mean, one of my recent experiences, you mentioned Grubhub, so won't shy away from that. There was some extreme credibility that was lacking in the sales training team. And so before I got there, sales training rolled up to HR, the people team.
Yeah.
They didn't have any sales background, the
Mm.
leader and the actual trainer. And so that led to more of what you said, sales and even leadership completely discounting and derailing any effort that was brought out by whether it was RevOps or the training team. And so I had to come in there and, of course, undo all of that. And so in that discovery phase, of course, I'm establishing myself as a listener, someone that cares. That's important. It's something that should never be overlooked. But after that, you have to establish that credibility. You have to
Mhm.
show that you understand their world and you're not just an X's and O's person that's just going to throw some blank playbook that worked with Bill Belichick and think it's going to work down in Tampa Bay. It's
Yeah.
completely different wherever you go. And so helping them understand that, yes, I have this background in sales and sales leadership and sales enablement, but I'm still here to learn what works here. One of my mistakes at Grubhub was when I came into it, I was like, well, we're going to do a discovery and it's going to be this, and that. No, we have to tail that back. We're selling to restaurant owners. We're not going to ask about their endless goals, trying to build out the challenger sales sheet for something that takes 5 minutes to close. It just doesn't work. And so we have to show them that I'm here to learn your way of doing things. What's been successful to you? And so meeting with those frontline managers, meeting with their top dogs that are crushing their goals and understanding their current situation, taking that and then sharing your vision on how you're going to improve their current situation. Of course, in that situation, we're going to learn what's working and what's been making them successful. But at the same time, they're going to share with you all their beefs, all their gripes with RevOps, all their gripes with implementation and success, and what's making their job harder. What's wrong with marketing? Why am I not getting all these quality leads? All those things you're going to hear from those salespeople that are not afraid of sharing their opinion. And you need to now share your vision on how you're going to improve it. And in that vision, you should be able to establish that credibility and show them that you are the person that deserves to be in that role and not just some coach that couldn't do it.
Makes sense. Make absolute sense. Look, especially with larger organizations like Grubhub, or with any organization that you work with. I know you build these programs from scratch for many companies. Obviously, like, people have different mindsets and practices in place. To your point, I want to learn how you run success for your team. And also, let's just get your high performing reps, those L4s that already been there, done that, crushing the numbers, to understand like what's really working for them. Then one challenge, and I might be off base and you correct me if I'm wrong, is the fact that when there's no standardization, so people might be successful in their own little bubble or org or whatever we call it, but is that really important to customize everything based on each team, or you naturally have to bring some changes that might make them uncomfortable? Because how do you build something standardized so you make sure that the value proposition of your brand is communicated in a unified way when it comes to your clients?
Yeah, I think you're hitting on something very important, because to me, there's all these different definitions of enablement, and you touched on it. It's creating the best experience possible throughout the entire customer journey. We do that in enablement by making everyone's jobs easier, whether it's sales, marketing, success. What's one way we make that job easier is getting on the same page, making sure that we're on that consistent messaging. And so that's crucial. We can have different flavors. We can have different essences. And so when I was running a sales team at MindBody, when I took over, they had two leaders that were completely out the door while they were in the door. And so they were at like 14% to quota when I joined that squad. Of course, we had to deal with some hiring, recruiting to build up the team to where we needed them to be. But once I got them there, it was all about showing them how to do their discovery, how to do their demo, because they never got that coaching. And so what I'm trying to say here is I showed them step by step what to say, how to say it, but don't say it just like me. Take it in, understand the process. It's important to ask about what their goals are and of course, quantify them so we can show them how we're going to help accomplish those goals. But you don't have to say it the exact same way as me. Capture the essence of what I'm saying, understand that process, but still be you. And so that's what I always share with salespeople. Yeah, we're going to ask you to change and do some things differently, but that's because we know that they're successful. And here's my proof, because I have Taylor, who's been crushing it and doing this before we even thought of it, and this is why she's been successful. And so that can be, of course, the other piece that's critical, again, is that proof of concept for them on it being successful.
Makes sense. So you don't bring something from outside and say this is the best practice. You look at inside. Like, this has been working for this specific rep who's in the same org, targeting same buyer persona, and it's been working. And let's just replicate that for you so you can do the same thing without losing your own voice, because nobody wants robots sitting in front of a bunch of checklists and just do exactly as we say. You will find that, but they have to start somewhere, right? So when you roll out this, let's say when you create these programs, I wanted to understand, like, how would you prioritize first to ensure some quick success before you're aiming for long-term scalability? And just to give some context why I'm asking this question, it reminds me of like normal selling, right? You sometimes do POC, especially if you're a mid-market enterprise. So look, I want to de-risk it for you. Let me just prove it to you that it actually works, baby steps, so nobody's actually get burnt out here. And then based on that, we can scale it. You work with large teams. Like, where do you really start? Like, how do you get these first steps right before shoot for scalability?
Yeah, I mean, you have to listen, of course. This discovery and enablement is just as important as discovery and sales. We have to fully understand where the pains are. And it's like it's a matrix, right? The Covey quadrant, whatever it's called. Excuse my business instructor; they're going to be mad that I forgot the term. At the end of the day, you got to put it in that box to understand what's going to be high priority. People are pissed off about it, and what's going to be a low amount of time, low lift to fix. And so one of my previous experiences, I talked about those handoffs, those breakdowns. It was just a simple playbook for the sales team to set expectations properly, convey the proper time to call, the best number to call who they're reaching out to, and also share that information with the prospect, or I should say the customer at that point, on who's going to be reaching out to them, to minimize the amount of times that people are missing those kickoff calls. And that alone reduced the amount of attrition and what they call failed go lives. So find that low hanging fruit, right? It's a term we all know. What's going to have a huge impact, make people happy, and what's going to take a little bit of less of a lift. And from there, you build that sales process and enablement program based on the key frameworks, but make sure that they're completely married to the way things work internally. I understand, value sales, MedPick or Medic, Challenger, all the way back to Sandler and Miller Hyman. Those are all great systems, but they mean diddly squat to the company I'm moving into. There's a boomer term, diddly squat, to the company that I'm moving into. If I don't fully understand how things work there and their ICP that they're working with. So we have to find a way to marry it for that long-term scalability, and just find that low-hanging fruit as quickly as you can.
Can you give me some examples about little hanging fruit that you figured early on, let's say in a recent company that you engaged with?
Yeah. So I've mentioned those handoffs with Grubhub way enough. So let's say at Inspectorio, there was a bit of the lack of ability to capture accounts before they attrited. And to me, that was some pretty low hanging fruit. We just didn't have the reports to understand, to see when someone was reducing their utilization in the tool, or if they had a big issue. And so just using the software we had, it was HubSpot at the time, creating a dashboard that showed any reduction, any challenges, any friction, and put that in the hands of the success team members so they can act quickly and not wait for it to build up into a problem where the customer is calling us. And it gave them the ability to be proactive. I believe in Salesforce, it's similar to called next best action, which helps, of course, success team members respond quickly and with the right messaging in the right place to reduce that attrition and improve those customer health scores as well.
You show the managers frameworks or methodologies. They understand why it needs to be in place. How do you help them with implementation and reinforcement? Because again, if you're dealing with a larger team, you know what to do, but how could you go about like making sure that what you're teaching these reps being applied on field?
Yeah. I about four steps to this. There's probably others, but four main things that need to take place. 360 feedback and consistent collaboration. If you have a huge team, you're probably going to be meeting monthly, maybe once a quarter even. But you have to have those meetings. It has to have 360 feedback where you're soliciting feedback to understand what's working, what's not, what needs to be done to help us be more successful. And that, of course, if you're in a smaller group, you might be able to do it bi-weekly, which would be great and keep you moving fast. But consistently solicit that feedback from those leaders, and also offer what do you call after action reports, right? So you can improve on those go-to-market actions. And so if you come to the market with this brand new procedure and it just had a lot of friction the way it was rolled out, you can learn from it. You might do better at involving your stakeholders earlier on, or just the way you rolled it out. Maybe it involves a little bit more leaders or just more subject matter experts, but you'll learn from those after action reports. It's something that we have to provide, and that transparency in all of your projects and the vision is something that we can't surprise people with. Whether you're using Asana, a Google spreadsheet, whatever it might be, share your projects. Help your team see exactly what you're working on. Keep them up to date so they understand what's coming down the pike and there are no surprises. And the last thing I learned from one of my colleagues at MindBody, Sebastian Stryker, he calls it inspect what you expect. If I expect you to do something, I need to inspect that you're doing that thing. So create the reports, create the dashboards. If you want your managers to have consistent debriefs, make sure that we're having those consistent debriefs and check on it. Find a way to make sure that they're happening. Because if you're not inspecting it, then they can easily slide under the radar, find their ways to work around it, and still be successful, but still make it seem like they're working with that process that you need them to work on. Inspect what you expect. Have those reports. It doesn't have to be the what do we call the nasty gram email to all the managers saying, "Oh, you suck. You guys aren't doing this." But you can also highlight the people that are and champion them and thank them. That kind of shines a light on the others that are not adopting to the change.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. When you find a problem, let's say you find a team or a frontline manager who's not actually adopting or applying. First and foremost, you said about finding these challenges. Like there are reports, there are tools that you can use to see what's working and whatnot. How do you go about communicating this and helping them actually get back on a right track?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the organization you're in. I don't think there's one blanket stroke. You might have a good enough relationship with that person and just reach out to them on a Slack. Set up a meeting. Say, hey, I just want to see what's going on. I believe it was one of Sandler's 100 rules. Don't paint seagulls in your prospect's picture. Don't put the problem there. Make them say it, right? And so have them uncover it. Don't say, I noticed you're not adopting to this change. Share some of your observations and ask, what can I help you with? What's holding you back? Is there something that you have wrong with it? You might be able to ask them directly. But in a lot of organizations, you might just need to go through the right channels, share it with their leader, not in a way that I'm trying to gotcha moment, trying to get you in trouble, but hey, I want to understand what I can do to help your team be more successful with this change. This is something that we have identified, you and I, in our conversations as being critical to our customer journey. So what can I do to help with this implementation and continued success?
Do you believe your reps burn leads practicing on client calls? When it comes to giving them one-on-one coaching sessions, you just don't have the bandwidth, so you get rid of them altogether? Or maybe you notice that your team spends a lot of time on non-revenue tasks like taking notes, updating CRM, or drafting emails. These are the exact challenges we solve for other revenue leaders like yourself. With SellMeThisPen AI Coach, you can offer your reps role-play sessions at scale while automating one-on-one coaching sessions based on your best practices and methodology. Also, AI will take care of all their non-revenue tasks, like note-taking, CRM updates, draft the email for them, so they can focus on constant improvement while you're focusing on one thing and one thing only: revenue growth. If you're interested in learning more about the clients we are working with or use cases that might be beneficial to you, check us out at SellMeThisPen.ai. Based on your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges you personally face working with frontline managers as an enabler?
Successful ones. If I'm crushing my goal, I don't have anything to change. You're not motivating me to change. So that's some of the hardest team members to partner up with and get to adopt. And that's why you want to be on their side. If you show them I'm learning from you, they'll be much more likely to take your program, your playbook, your change, your process, whatever it is, to heart and bring it to their team, not as this is what enablement's telling us to do. I want you to check these boxes. This is something we're going to do to be successful. And so it's really the biggest challenge has been those star performers that are crushing their goals that really don't have much motivation to change because they're killing it already.
So when we're talking about these star performers and teams that are successful, and obviously because although with good intention and for a bigger success, like for the whole organization, change needs to happen. You cannot stop it. But we are kind of like interrupting day to day, right? Like I'm crushing my numbers, I'm carrying quota, I'm helping even others. And some people naturally like to help. That's understandable. Like sometimes we'll be surprised at how many of these people are inside our organization. We just don't know them. Just by, to your point, just getting to know people who are you working with and partnering up with them. Some of these challenges, could go away from the get-go. But what's the real value proposition for those who are not willing to help? Said, look, my job is defined. I'm gonna go and crush my numbers. What's in it for me to basically partner up with enablement to help push this initiative?
Well, when we're talking about frontline contributors, if all you want to do is your job, I'm not going to stop you from that. I'm not going to even try and persuade you. I'm not going to even ask why. That is what it is at the end of the day. And it's not my job to uncover or change that. But we're talking about leaders that refuse and don't feel the need to partner with enablement because they don't have a motivation. That might be another conversation that's not up to me as well, because I'm starting to question, what are you here for? Is it just yourself? Because we have this set of culture and core values that propels us forward. And to me, what I'm hearing is that you want to just be your own, your own sound, your own drum, your own beat. That can work as an individual contributor. That does not work with leadership. Mm-hmm. Most leaders aspire to be somewhere and go somewhere. That's why they're in that role. Of course, there's plenty of mistakes made where the killer salesperson got hired to be the coach leader, and they had
Yeah.
no clue how to do it. Michael Jordan is one of them, of course, even though it didn't have anything to do with sales. But at the end of the day, the majority of salespeople, sales leaders, or leaders in general, are in there because they're motivated to grow within their role. And that's when I'll have a conversation with them if I'm comfortable enough with them or with their leader to understand where are you trying to go within this organization or your career. Because yes, we don't need a yes person. We don't want someone that's going to say yes to every single thing and tell us everything is peachy and dreamy. We need to understand how we can improve. But if you're going to be that stick in the mud and try and do your own thing every single time, it's really not going to help you accomplish the goal that you're trying to accomplish.
What I'm hearing is obviously everything goes back to that discovery that you said at the beginning. So let's just understand the motivation behind being even in that role. Why are you even that, at this company in the first place?
Absolutely. Yeah, something I stole from Home Depot is the development blueprint. And it helps me understand what people's goals are, their motivation. So there's a box in the upper left-hand corner that'll say, are you trying to grow in your role or grow to the next role? And so even the people that have no aspirations to be a leader are trying to get better in their role. If they're not, they're going to get worse because everybody around them is getting better. And so just by that rule, they're going to be left behind.
Look, AI is a big buzzword right now. Everything AI, AI this, AI that. you know, how do you foresee it actually helping and damaging relationship between enablement and frontline managers?
So let's start with the damaging. I think that a quick conversation. I mean, it can be damaging in the sense where I can rely on this AI and I don't need to worry about anything else that enablement's doing for me. And still with AI, we've got to inspect what we expect. And so if I use AI to write a thank you note or write something for me, I still need to go through that entire message to make sure it has my essence, the proper wordage, not going to put egg on my face because it just said something incredibly silly. Or it starts off with that, I hope this finds you well. Red flag, you wrote that from chatbot. We all know already. Goodbye, thank you. But from there, like it's a lot of help. For starters, what you're doing, literally, being able to turn coaching into something that's easier and more comfortable for the learner, for the seller. I've held so many different training seminars, where people had to get up in front of the team and do a whole role play and they froze. They couldn't say a word because they were just worried about all their peers looking at them and knowing what they're supposed to say. But those people kick ass and crush it when they're on the phone and they're on their own. And so what your tool is doing is taking away that dynamic that can get in the way, that barrier of learning, and takes away those nerves, which I think can be awesome. But also can help us with data-driven insights that will help sellers fish in very small ponds with very big old fish. Who doesn't want that? Nobody loves throwing out 100 cold calls, 100 emails, 100 DMs, and getting one response that says F off. Nobody really likes that. It's still part of the game. It's still something that we have to do nonstop. But with AI, it should be able to help us with the right data, of course, to identify those prospects that are in our ICP, that are in their right buying motion, and we should be able to close with a lot higher likelihood. That's going to make people happier, make people feel like they're spending their time with more value and more efficiency. Automating routine tasks as well. I think that's another thing that we could just check the box. Writing notes from a meeting, I think that's great. Helping me with my follow-up, things that take a little bit extra time that I can just roll through and finesse with my own human touch is going to be some powerful additions to people's repertoire as well.
So with what I'm hearing is like overall you think AI is definitely a positive thing when it comes to building these alignments between both teams, because not only it saves time, like it help make better decisions because you have more data, more practices. You will figure out like how not to burn your leads prior to actually go on field. So let's just fix this internally before it happens, and then after effect we get some reality check of what went wrong. I think that that's a value prop right there for even frontline managers saying, look, I'm supporting you. Yes, there's a tool for, let's say, enablement, but the ripple effect of having this is better performance for you and your team. Jared, I have my last question for you. If you could only fix one major gap between frontline managers and enablement teams forever, what would that be?
Collaboration. That's what it comes down to. I think too many enablement teams feel like they need to be the expert and do it all, because I've got to, prove my bottom line and bring some ROI to this organization. And I don't want to make it seem like I need help to do my job. And same thing from salespeople. Too many salespeople, sales leaders that think I can crush it without help. I don't need these tools. I don't need outreach. I don't need sequences. I don't need these processes. I can do it on my own because I've always been able to do it on my own. Some people might be right, but still, if it's measurable, it's improvable. And with the right collaboration, we can continuously evolve, continuously improve. And so enablement needs to get their sales team, success team, implementation team, their whole revenue team involved early, like I said, from discovery all the way through implementation and follow through. And salespeople need to join that collaboration and make sure that they're there to uplift the enablement function and not just say this is a check in the box. This is something that we're supposed to do. Here's the reports. Make sure that you have all your fields filled out.
How can we help build this relationship from the get-go? Like who should actually, take this initiative to make this, as a collaboration rather than competition, or like I'm doing my own, thing in silos and you do your own thing? Who should actually be the primarily, let's say, visionary behind this and help make this happen?
Yeah, vision comes from the top. So maybe if we can get the CEO in there, if not the CRO, perhaps the VP of sales, VP of revenue, someone that everybody in that revenue org trusts, has credibility with, even aspires to be in their role and position. They need to set that tone for the team to share the importance that we are working together. This 90s or 2000 buzzword synergy really needs to take place in order for enablement to be able to provide the ROI and the success for the sales team.
Makes sense. Hopefully, leaders who are actually watching this can take a note and, help their entire, go-to-market and revenue teams to really work in a collaborative, space together. Jared, really do appreciate you taking the time today and sharing your insight. If someone wants to reach out to you, get to know you, have a conversation, first and foremost, can they and how?
Absolutely. I'm open to conversations. I do consults. I'm more than happy to work with your organization, whether it's brand new sales training, revamping your onboarding, some understanding on how we can get that collaboration between your entire revenue mechanism. Feel free to reach me on LinkedIn. Jared Balzer is the name. You could also email me if you like. JD is in David, my middle initial, then Balzer at Gmail. So jdbalzer@gmail. Hit me up. I'm glad to talk.
Love it. All right, man. Thank you very much. And guys, hope to see you soon. And thanks for listening. Bye bye.